Hi, and welcome to the Switch Show. I can't tell you how much. Whew, okay, so let's get let's get a starting point first of all. So I was thinking of something. Okay, that wasn't how I wanted to start. But yeah, I was recording an episode and I had already gone far. I had already done so much, and a couple of minutes or seconds till I was done with the recording, it just felt forced. And I thought to myself, I said to myself, I was like, is this a podcast where I just want to come, drop something for people and be on my way, just do something every Thursday as a measure of consistency, because having a measure of consistency like this is usually tasking. I set a goal for myself actually at the beginning of the year. I said there are, I think, 52, right? 52 Thursdays. There are 52 Thursdays in the year. So I said to myself, okay, 52 Thursdays. I would try my very best to do 26. I might not post every single week, but I will do like half of that 52. That's 26. And then along the line, I did the first month. I did January, all Thursdays in January, or every week in January. I did February, 2 months straight up consistency, and I did March. I said to myself, if I can do 3 months, I think I can push for more than 26. I think I can push for the rest of the year. I can actually do this. And that is one thing about consistency, especially when it comes to something like this, content creation, podcasting, whether it's audio or video content. When it comes to something like this, having this measure of consistency, telling people we'll be here every Thursday, you're no longer accountable to yourself. You're not accountable to people. If I didn't have a schedule, I just told people, catch us any time of the week. We could post at any time. The only thing they just need to do was turn on the notifications on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever they get their podcasts from. They just put on the post notifications. Whenever a new episode drops, they are there. They are there, to grab it and listen. They are there to stream. They are there to share with their friends. They are there to stream over and over again. And that can be good, but for the sake of accountability, I said every Thursday. Thursday seems like a wonderful day. I do not know why. Thursdays, I think, also actually what should be my favorite day of the week. After Friday, should be Friday, Thursday, then Friday, Thursday, Sunday. Yeah, usually. Then the weekends. Obviously, everybody loves the weekends. But yeah, I said Thursday, and from this, the journey of the year. Okay, so I think we've gotten where we are headed. Today we're just talking about, consistency in the journey. I don't know, that's a funny topic. But yeah, consistency in the journey, I think. And the one thing that has stood out to me is that when you're accountable to people, you do not have to be 100%. You do not have to be 100% all the time. The only thing that requires your 100% is your honesty. And now I'm talking to an audience of people. When I go back into my closet, I'm with my mentor, I'm with my teacher, my discipler. I might not be 100%. I will not always know the scriptures. I will not always have the vocabulary exposition. I will not always have the length, breadth, depth of words to convey whatever I'm trying to say. But at the end of the day, at the end of the day, what determines my consistency is the measure of honesty I bring to the table. So aside being honest and accountable to these people, I need to be honest and accountable to myself. Tell myself, hey bro, we know we don't got this. We don't got this all the time. This can be overwhelming. You've not been this consistent with the podcast. The first 2 years you were not this consistent, but now you're deciding to take this journey. I decided to go on this path. There's going to be a lot of hitches. And when I talk about hitches, sometimes I'm recording in my room, my siblings call out to me, noise. I'm usually the type of person that likes one take. I don't like 2 takes. People that do 2 takes, cuts, edits, I don't really have, dare I say, I don't really have the luxury of audio editing softwares and mixing and matching and all of that stuff that bigger podcasters do. I'm still a very growing podcast dude, but at the same time I still have to give quality. So I like to find the most quiet place in the house. I record. That's whenever I'm at my parents'. When I go back to mine, I have some noisy neighbors, so I have to wait till everywhere is quiet, till it's serene, it's considerably silent, then I can record. And these are just one of many hitches I've experienced. Sometimes it's a dead phone, sometimes it's no data, sometimes it's even network issues. You're trying to publish, you've recorded days back, and gets to the day it's supposed to be published, it's not. Network issue, you're having network issues. There's a myriad of problems, but the essence of the journey isn't just about the blessings. The essence of the journey is the lessons you take along and the footprints you set, or the marks you set for other people to follow. And that is where sometimes I look at it, I'm like, what would Jesus do? I believe, Jesus was 100% man and 100% God. But at a point, I'm forced to believe that it got overwhelming, because not just I'm forced to believe, it's shown in scripture that it got overwhelming. Jesus said, if this be your will, if it was your will, let this cup pass over me. But he said something. He said, nevertheless, not my will, but that your will be done. Or that your will be done. I don't know why I used 2 wills there. So it shows that it gets overwhelming, but there is a greater goal. The greater goal is that the souls of men are saved from the clutches of hell. Men are delivered, men are trained in sound theology, men are discipled, men are groomed, by the doctrine of scripture, so that they can go out there, groom, disciple, and teach other men. But that is largely what the goal is. And it's a journey. It's not about the destination, it's about the process. So I know the process can be tasking. This episode is just me, coming to you. I think this is the most honest and vulnerable I've been with an episode since I talked about the lessons I've learned in 20 years of my life. So it gets tough and it gets tiring, it gets overwhelming. Sometimes I want to record, I'm lost for words, the words are not coming to me. Even with the dictionary definitions, even if I pen down multiple synonyms, sometimes I'm like, I don't owe anybody an explanation. I have the proclivity to take a hiatus, and nobody is going to question me. It's my podcast, but then I realized that this is far more bigger. It's much bigger than I anticipated. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than myself. So I'm not doing this for me. It's not a me goal or a me course. It's not an I thing anymore. It's now a greater goal. There is a different perspective, and that is what happens when you understand the complexity, the texture, and I put it in quotes, the texture, the depth of your purpose. You understand that you're no longer living for yourself. You're not just in it to make a living or to make a name for yourself or to build some human legacy. Ultimately, your work or your gifts will make a way for you. That is undebatable. That is just the truth. That is truth. That is fact. That your gifts to make a way for you. But then you understand that it's not just about your gifts making a way for you. You're not just here to make a name for yourself, but you're here to, be the express image of the Creator, of God. You're here to declare and to walk and to embody the name of God on the earth. So it's not just about having a ton of listeners or a ton of streams. Looking at sometimes I look at it, I see how far the podcast has gone. I see the apps, I see some places where the podcast has landed, and I'm like, I didn't put you there. How did you get there? Sometimes, you check your analytics. I'm familiar with the ones that Spotify for podcasters. I'm familiar with the ones they spread it to, where they distribute it to themselves. But then you see on other platforms where people listen to podcasts and your podcast is there, and it makes me think, if this was truly by my power, if this was truly by my strength, if this was truly a me thing, how far can I truly carry this? Because that's one thing about this journey, about the destination, about actualizing purpose. Purpose isn't something for you, it's something for the people. Because we're living in a world where there's a lot of ideas, there's a lot of opinions. People are inclined to a progressive, inclusive notion, trying to rewrite the narrative. But yeah, and I think that is what this podcast is about. As much as you're running this journey with your strength, it's time to change the narrative. It's high time to change the narrative. This podcast, if you've not gotten anything, if I've been shooting in different directions and you're like, yeah, I relate to that, this is one thing you should get. Change the narrative. And what narrative am I talking about? I'm talking about societal narrative. We're in a crumbling society. You're not just here to buy into that narrative that, oh, I can do whatever I want. My body, my choice. It's my life, my will. I do not really mind. I definitely acknowledge that there are subjective views on every single topic, but this is the one objective truth, the one reality of things, is that God is, and He's a rewarder of them that diligently seek Him. And a pastor once put it, I came across a clip probably on TikTok or YouTube Shorts. He said, the God you are seeking has been seeking for you. I'm kind of paraphrasing. See, when you understand that God that you are seeking after, the God you are running after, has been seeking you and has been running after you, you would understand the measure of love He has for you. So instead of buying to the idea that the church is too orthodox, it's too traditional, you need to be free, you only live once. Honey, you do not live once. I said this before in the podcast episode. You do not live once. You die once. And after death, there is life after death. You are familiar with a scientific phenomenon they call the afterlife. Listen to, most times when people that is the thing about this progressive stuff. They tend to say they are spiritual. They are not Christians. They don't belong to any religion, but they are spiritual. And even in their spirituality, these things are, well, I say, misinterpreted. They've been, the things that they hold as their spiritual tenets are things that were from the Bible but misinterpreted. So if you've, like I said, if you've not gotten anything from everything I've been saying, what I'm trying to do with this is I've tried to be honest and tell you guys that it gets overwhelming. It gets overwhelming. But wherever you stop isn't your final destination. It's only for you to catch your breath and move on. I said something that success isn't a measure of fulfillment, but rather success is more or less a checkpoint. It's a pause. Success is a pause. It's a place where you take a breather, you examine your options, you look at everything, you consult, you go back to God, not consult, you go back to God, say, okay, I've come this far, what's the next step? Success isn't your resting point. It is rather a place for re-strategizing and more movement. So it's time to change the narrative. Whatever this world has sold to you, when you're overwhelmed, when you're overwhelmed, if something is not working right, it means it's not for you. Many a times things might not be working out well. It doesn't mean you should stop. It doesn't mean that's the end of life. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't pursue after this goal, you shouldn't pursue after your God-given purpose. It just means that this world, it can get tiring, it can get overwhelming, but that is just part of the process. And when I talk about the process, the process I'm talking about is the process found in your God-given purpose. Anything outside your God-given purpose can largely become overwhelming. And once you've met with God and God tells you this isn't what you're meant to do, don't waste a millisecond on it. Move on to it. It's not always easy, I tell you. Even with the things you call your God-given purpose, it's never easy. It is never easy. It is never smooth. Some people run to God and expect things to be a bed of roses. Even if you lay down in a bed of roses, there are thorns that are guaranteed to cause you injuries. So yeah, if you've not gotten anything from this, this is the third time I'm saying it, I think. This is a message to you, also to me, to change the narrative. Get back what the world has stole from you. The ideas that the world has been selling you are a fraction, are a smidgen, are only a minuscule of what God has intended for you. I love you all. I will see you on the next episode. Flip that switch and illuminate. Be the light that the world needs and they don't know they need. And yeah, may the grace and the peace of the Lord be with you all. I'll see you on the next episode. Arrivederci.